When it comes to building a dynasty, you need those cornerstone wide receivers. I'm talking guys under 24 years old that are going to carry you and basically be the core of your team for 5, 6, even 7 years. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about your top 12 cornerstone wide receivers. Though the one caveat, right, the one rule we have is we are talking guys 24 and under. So with that being said, let's get into it. The first name on the list, it's Justin Jefferson. Obviously, it is Justin Jefferson. If you wanted to put Ja'Marr Chase here, also great. He's also probably the other safest asset you can have that isn't a quarterback. So first, we're getting Justin Jefferson. And what is there to say about Justin Jefferson that everybody doesn't know, right? He's basically had the best start to a career of all time. He is on track to be one of the greatest wide receivers ever. And we're like 3-4 years into his career. And right, he's 24 years old still. From the moment he stepped on the field, there was no question about what he was about to be as an NFL wide receiver. Now, the big question obviously is going to come down to quarterback play, right? Ja'Marr Chase has Joe Burrow. Justin Jefferson has Kirk Cousins for this year. Beyond that, it's a question. So things could get dicey. But if you've watched us, we preach talent over situation. So when it comes to talent, again, Justin Jefferson very well may be the best wide receiver we have seen in 5-6 years since like prime Julio. So he's just different. He is him. It's Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1. Now, to the other guy. You want to put him 1B, you want to call it 2, whatever. It's Ja'Marr Chase. Again, 2 years in, Ja'Marr Chase has proven to be a walking like 1,310 type player. And everything I just said for Justin Jefferson is true for Ja'Marr Chase. He is already pacing to be a generationally productive wide receiver. And you're looking at a guy that if he doesn't get hurt or get banged up, is probably on pace to beat Justin Jefferson through 2 seasons, right? Like, that is the type of production you're looking at. He's actually been better on a points per game basis than Justin Jefferson. But again, you're splitting hairs. I don't care which one you want. Debating them is pointless because they're awesome. Who do I want? I want both. If you have both on your roster, I'm not looking to capitalize on value. I'm not looking to sell them for additional assets. I am holding both and just riding the wave of basically like a guaranteed 40 to 50 points every single week combined from the 2 of them. Moving to the wide receiver 3 here. Now, if A.J. Brown was in this player pool, he would be in consideration right here as well and probably be my wide receiver 3. But since he is not, the other obvious choice is CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb finally broke out. Like he had a true year 3 breakout, right? He flashed talent and was productive year 1 and year 2, and it was just a matter of time until he truly became what I'll call a borderline elite, if not elite wide receiver. He finishes wide receiver 7 in points per game in year 3. He puts up a 28.7% target share, and now he's basically proven he can produce. He can earn targets at a freakishly high rate, and he is tied to Dak Prescott. And say what you want about Dak. Dak being CeeDee Lamb's quarterback is fantastic for his fantasy value. Dak is an above-average quarterback. He can lead high-powered offenses and can throw more if he needs to. So CeeDee Lamb is basically the all-in package. He just doesn't have, right, like the wide receiver 1-2 ceiling that we've seen from Jefferson and Chase just yet. Next up, getting into what I'll call tier 3, right, the next batch of wide receivers here. It is Garrett Wilson coming in as my wide receiver 4. If you want to put any of the guys that I have behind him ahead of Garrett Wilson, I think that's fine as well. But for me, what I saw from Garrett Wilson year 1, playing with just truly terrible quarterback play, is a guy that if he gets even a semi-average quarterback, Garrett Wilson will be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver this time next year. I'm not talking cornerstone. I am talking all-around wide receiver. Again, as a rookie, he puts up that 25% target share. He goes over 1,000 yards playing with Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco and Mike White, and just really guys that shouldn't be throwing passes in the NFL right now. Garrett Wilson flashed freakish potential. He passes the eye test. He earns targets at a very high clip. I mean, so much so that Elijah Moore became entirely expendable. So I don't know what there is to say about Garrett Wilson that people aren't already saying. He is a guy I would like on every dynasty team. Is it possible? Probably not. He's damn near impossible to trade for right now. So if you have him on your roster, consider yourself lucky. Next up at wide receiver 5, it is one of the other breakout rookie wide receivers, and that is going to be Chris Olave with the New Orleans Saints. Chris Olave outproduced Garrett Wilson, right? He had a higher target share. He was just a better box score wide receiver. Now, again, I have Wilson ahead of Olave. I don't care if you flip him. I don't think it really matters. Chris Olave has already proven he's going to be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL, and now that he has this huge quarterback upgrade, I expect very big things from Chris Olave in 2023. And you may pause and say, well, Derek Carr is not an upgrade over anybody. I like to think Derek Carr is an upgrade over Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton was fine last year. Like, he was an average quarterback. I think Derek Carr is better than that, especially from a fantasy output, right? Look at what he just did with Davante Adams. Davante Adams basically didn't miss a beat, right? It's like he never left Aaron Rodgers. Now, Chris Olave may not be Davante Adams, but Derek Carr has proven if you're good, he will get you the ball and you will produce. Moving to my wide receiver 6, some may have expected to see him a little bit higher, but for me, he slots in at 6. It's Jaylen Waddle. Now, the only reason Jaylen Waddle is behind Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson is his ability to earn targets, right, in year 2. He's stuck behind Tyreek Hill, and that clearly affected Jaylen Waddle, right? He produced like it didn't even matter, right? He comes in over 15 points per game, a borderline top 12 wide receiver, depending on your format. But he earned targets at a 21.6% rate. Like, that is his target share this season. And that leaves a little bit to be desired, right? You're looking at guys, Wilson and Olave, who I think have proven they are their team's number 1. Jaylen Waddle will not be their 1, most likely until Tyreek Hill leaves. Tyreek Hill is at the peak of his game right now. Even if he takes a step back, he's probably the 2nd or 3rd best wide receiver in the NFL still. So that's really the only knock here is the situation when you're this high up in rankings, it has to split hairs somewhere. So Jaylen Waddle has the talent. Every time he touches the ball, he's basically like a walking 60-yard touchdown, right? You're looking at a guy that was 10th in yards after catch and was not anywhere near the league leader in targets. The speed, the ability to break away, the ability to just slip tackles, all of it is next level. He is one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL. It just so happens that he's also playing with one of the best veteran wide receivers we have ever seen. All right, guys, before we get to wide receiver 7, if you like these videos, if you like the content at DLF and you want more videos from Addison and myself, check out the DLF YouTube membership, the bonus content tier. Over there, you're going to get multiple videos every single month that are not available to everybody. They are just for our YouTube members. So check it out, guys. The DLF YouTube membership. It would mean a ton to Addison and I if you signed up. Now, to my wide receiver 7. Again, I still think this is the same tier, but in my wide receiver 7 slot, it is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Amon-Ra St. Brown proved every single doubter wrong in year 2. Me being one of them. I was not in on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Liked him out of college. Didn't love the draft capital. Didn't love how he produced in year 1. Flat out wrong. Now he is my wide receiver 7 as far as cornerstone wide receivers go, and there is no denying the talent, right? The talent has proven in the target share he earned. 28.1%. That is just, he's a target hog. There's no other way to put it. He is the focal point of an offense, and he's proven he can produce while being that focal point. Now, the reason he's behind Wilson, Olave, Waddle is the overall ceiling may be slightly capped. And some of that has to do with he really is an underneath weapon, right? You're looking at a guy that was 97th in average depth of target. And again, when you are up this high, you have to nitpick a little bit. To counteract some of that, he was 8th in red zone targets, right? He was top 5 in yards after catch. So he's still a playmaker. He still gets used in high value situations, but he's really a volume play, and that's fine. He's going to be a top 12 wide receiver. Think Keenan Allen, right? Keenan Allen did finish as a top 5 wide receiver in points per game with Justin Herbert, but traditionally, he's a top 15, top 12 guy that is just an automatic bucket, basically. That's how I view Amon-Ra St. Brown. Moving to wide receiver 8 here, it is one of my favorites. It is Drake London, and if you've watched the channel, you know exactly what I think of Drake London. I think he is poised to be an absolute superstar. But again, right, from a production standpoint, before I can put him ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, before I can put him ahead of Waddle or Olave or Wilson, he has to actually produce. A lot of what we like about him is just based on what we saw year 1 from a usage standpoint, right? You're looking at a guy that was 5th in the NFL in target share, 2nd in target rate, and that just means he's the focal point of an offense. If Arthur Smith actually commits to throwing the ball, which, again, they have Kyle Pitts, they have Drake London, they should be throwing the damn ball. But if they commit to it, Drake London could be a top 12 wide receiver next year, right? If you just look at what he did with Desmond Ridder, those 4 games, he's on pace for like 1,400 yards and like 90 catches. Unfortunately, 0 touchdowns. But there's a lot that you can project moving forward. Drake London could be a top 4 wide receiver in Dynasty, top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty this time next year. He's a guy I'm buying everywhere. He is cheaper than Wilson. He is cheaper than Olave, Amon-Ra St. Waddle. He's cheaper than all of these guys, but he is just as good as every single one. And for me, again, it's just a banger of a trade target. Next up, and I just mentioned him, it is DeVonta Smith at my wide receiver 9. DeVonta Smith is just a talented wide receiver. He unfortunately has to play alongside A.J. Brown, who just also happens to be like a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. But DeVonta Smith, what he brings as a player is just nuanced route running, the ability to earn a target share alongside a superstar, right? You're talking 27% in 2022 with A.J. Brown, a 30%, air yard share, so he's getting high volume targets. DeVonta Smith is good. The volume says it. His route running ability says it. It just so happens, right, he's alongside A.J. Brown, and that's a bummer. Turning to wide receiver 10, it is T. Higgins, and everything I just said about DeVonta Smith is true, right? Very good wide receiver. Wins in different ways, but has proven to be a productive wide receiver. He is tied to a great quarterback, and unfortunately is stuck behind Jamar Chase. The reason Higgins slots behind DeVonta Smith is just the type of wide receiver I prefer in fantasy. I am a route runner truther, as in I want the guy that proves he can be an elite route runner. We unfortunately have not seen that from T. Higgins, right? You're looking at a guy that was 67th in win rate versus man, 63rd percentile versus zone, 70th percentile versus press. He doesn't win with great route running. And honestly, that's fine. That's not the type of wide receiver T. Higgins is. Does that mean I don't want him on my team because he's not an elite route runner? No, of course not. T. Higgins produces, right? 16.5 points per game in his healthy games in 2022. T. Higgins is a top 10 wide receiver. He just happens to win in different ways. And the other reason I'm a little bit lower, and again, 9 versus 10, so lower, put that in air quotes, is his ability to earn targets, right? You're looking at DeVonta Smith at 27%, T. Higgins at 22.5%. Again, I just want the route runner that's earning targets at a higher rate, but T. Higgins is great in his own right and should be a focal point of any Dynasty roster as well. Now, number 11, it is a rookie, and it is JSN. JSN, I would love to put him higher. I really would, but it's baked. There's so much baked into projection here, right? JSN is should be the first wide receiver off the board. If he's a top 10 pick, I'm not going to bat an eye. He is capable of being a very, very good wide receiver. We saw it in college when he was alongside Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and basically produced step for step with both of them. Those are wide receiver 4 and 5 in our cornerstone ranks. They have gone out of their way to say JSN might be better than both of them.
Who's the best athlete of the 3?
I would say me.
Yeah, that's oh, really? Yeah. I love it. And he's so quiet.
I would say me.
Take that with a grain of salt, right? They're buddies. Obviously, they're going to gas him up a little bit. But still, JSN put up 1,600 yards as a sophomore. And we didn't see him in year 3, or we didn't see him as a junior because of that hamstring injury. I'm fine with that. I don't particularly care. We saw enough year 2. If he just had sat out, I don't think anything would have changed to his draft stock at all. That's basically what he did, except it was for injury instead of just saying, I'm not going to play like Jamar Chase did, right? Already has shown the route running. He has shown the footwork, the agility, and then he ran a 4.53. That's plenty of speed. I don't really care about speed for wide receivers, especially when you're in that range, right? The type of player he is, he doesn't need to have long speed. I don't care if he has 4.3 speed because he's a big slot wide receiver like Amon-Ra St. or Keenan Allen or Cooper Kupp. He's the wide receiver 1 in the class, and when you look at the next batch of players, I think JSN is better than all of them. So for me, it just makes sense to put him at wide receiver 11. Now, this last spot, it will say wide receiver 12, but this could go to 4, 5, 6 different players, right? For me, it is Jerry Jeudy. But before anybody gets angry, Jerry Jeudy is in the exact same tier as Christian Watson, as Treylon Burks, Jameson Williams. For me, Jordan Addison. Right now, I lean Jerry Jeudy. So if your player's not on this list, they're just behind. It's fine. It's tiers, guys. It's not the end of the world. So the reason I like Jerry Jeudy here is the way he finished 2022 I think is a good indicator for what he's about to do moving forward. If we go back to week 7, right, and move on from there. In the games he did not leave injured, he put up 76 yards per game on 8.8 targets and put up 15.6 points per game. And again, we're splitting samples and we're taking games out, so take it all with a grain of salt, right? We could do the same thing to paint Christian Watson as the big winner and why he should be 12. Jerry Jeudy has a high-end ceiling, right? Just like all the guys in this tier with him. But the deciding factor is Sean Payton is in town. He still has Russell Wilson. There are things that should help Jerry Jeudy moving forward. Getting rid of Nathaniel Hackett is going to be massive for everybody in this offense, and I think Jerry Jeudy is the one. Now, assuming he does not get traded, I will probably have him as a top 15 wide receiver in 2023. I am very in on Jerry Jeudy. The production, the player, I love, and the situation just got better. So I'm in on Jerry Jeudy, my wide receiver 12 right now, in a large tier with a bunch of other young wide receivers. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. Again, if you like what we're doing, subscribe to the channel. If you have questions, comments, drop them down below. Check out the YouTube membership for more videos. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.